Yes, now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Thomas Rants YouTube channel. I bring to you my NXT Stand and Deliver predictions today. Now, it is tomorrow night, 2 weeks before WrestleMania, which is mental because I swear they used to do it the same weekend as WrestleMania, but obviously they must be crowded. They've got WrestleMania, SmackDown, literally, like, they've got Friday, SmackDown, WrestleMania, Saturday, Sunday. They've got the Hall of Fame. They've got, like, the Tony Hinchcliffe. They've got WWE World. They've got a lot of shit going on. And last thing they want is their developmental brand to be swept under the rug. So doing it 2 weeks before, I think is perfect because it gives us that big fight feel. We know this is NXT's big event of the year. So having it done 2 weeks before WrestleMania gets us a bit hyped, And the episodes of Raw and SmackDown leading in to WrestleMania are going to be excitement, right? So I think this just kicks off the WrestleMania season, right? So let's talk predictions. We have two non-title matches on this card. The first one was just kind of slapped together and just really to get some more people on the card. It is a combination of Hank and Tank, Shiloh Hill, Eli Knight, and Ren Sinclair taking on Birthright. There's 4 male members of Birthright and 1 female member. So it's a 10-person mixed tag match. If they were smart, they would go with Birthright winning. They want to promote. They put all these people in this faction because they weren't really doing much, and they're all second generation superstars. I think, except for Stax. I don't know if Stax is a second generation superstar, but he's with Ariana Grace, so technically Santino Marella is his stepdad. So, Ariana Grace being the daughter of Santino Marella, Uriah Connors, Fit Finlay, Lexis King, who I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it Al Snow? I think it's Al Snow, but I could be wrong. I'm not from that era, Whoever his dad was, who I think is Al Snow, was around before I was born. Yeah, so, sorry. Charlie Dempsey, the son of William Regal, which I only just learned recently, which is mental, because that actually makes a whole lot of sense. So yeah, but them being second generation superstars who aren't doing a lot, they put this faction together to get them doing something, but also, like, you push them, they're second generation superstars. They should be doing something. They should be achieving much, right? The thing that scares me is that Hank and Tank were once on top. They were once NXT Tag Team Champions. Shiloh Hill has been doing a decent job since he got here. Winner of Season 2 of LFG, and people are quite behind him. Eli Knight, they've tried to push Shawn Legacy and Ilya LaFleur. They both got injured. He's from Evolve, and they want to push him. You can tell. Ren Sinclair is the Women's Speed Champion. So because these are all like fan favourites who they're trying to push, I'm scared they might put the win on them. But if they were smart, they'd give Birthright the win, because this is a faction you want to build, and the best way to do that is having them win their first big match like this. When you put them together and then they're losing all their big matches at the start, it just wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. Plus, they're an actual faction. They should have got together some team synergy. Like, they should have chemistry by now, especially when Finlay and William Regal have showed up in previous weeks and probably given them a bit of mentorship, They should function better, and Birthright should win. So I'm going to go with Birthright purely based off the fact that they should. Knowing WWE, they could go either way. So that's what I'm going to say. The second non-title match is Sol Ruca versus Zarya. Big, massive story. Now, if they were wanting to finish this feud here, they'd go with Sol Ruca. But, in my opinion, with how long they've been building to this feud, they can't let this feud just last a couple of weeks and end it at Stand and Deliver. I think it's got to continue to deliver and carry on a bit longer. Some people might be sick of it now because it's a story we've all been waiting to happen, and like, we just want it to be done now. But like, when it comes to them actually hating each other, it's been about 3-4 weeks. If you go back to a month ago, there was still a tag team. They were still best friends. So I don't know. It is Stand and Deliver, and I kind of feel like they probably will have Sol win. But I think Zarya could pull something out of the bag and win. So I'm really torn. I'm really, really torn, and I don't know. I really don't know. I think if you look at how the crowd reacted, the crowd was cheering Zarya because Zarya's story makes sense. So I'm going to make a bold prediction. Simply, and this is truly 50-50 for me, but I'm going to go Zarya purely based off the fact that it makes more sense to the story. If Zarya did all this just for Sol to beat her and then the feud be over, come on. Make it make sense. I think they're going to drag this out, 3-match, feud. I think Zarya wins the first one. At Stand and Deliver, pulls out some shenanigans. But then again, Soul could win. Zarya could be disappointed about it. Like, oh, now I've not won on the biggest stage. To do their second match, Zarya pulls out some shenanigans and wins the second match, and then they go to a third. Nah. It would make sense to have Zarya win this, right? Because Soul's won everything, and Zarya thinks this is her turn. So I'm going to go with Zarya. But I'm fully expecting to be wrong on this. Again, two 50-50 matchups. And to be honest, good. This is what big stages like Stand and Deliver and WrestleMania are for. The best against the best. You should not be able to predict who wins these big matches, especially when they're supposed to be the biggest matches of the year. You're telling me, Stand and Deliver, the biggest match possible you've got for Sol Ruca is Zarya. I shouldn't be able to see who should win that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm glad it's like that. And it's like that with most of the matches on the card. Tatum Paxley defending her NXT Women's North American Championship against Blake Monroe. Now, Tatum Paxley has had that title for what, 2 months, 3 months? Probably not even that. Is she going to lose it to Blake Monroe straight away? Probably not. But Blake Monroe was never really meant to lose that title, is what I'm saying. So, did they pivot, have Izzy Dame win that title, capitalise off the feud between Izzy and Tatum, to give Tatum the title, bring Tatum in and Stand and Deliver, to eventually hand the title back to Blake Monroe, who was the rightful champion, who probably does a way better job as champion. But then I'm just thinking, Blake Monroe really should be in the main title division, should be in the NXT Women's title division. And that's packed at the minute, you know? So are they going to keep her there, or are they going to move her up? If they are going to move her up, I'd say, okay, Tatum retains. People like Tatum as champion. And they've been there, done that with the NXT title with Tatum. So they might just keep the North American title on it, given that she's not had it that long. Or they might fix what was broken and put it back on Blake Monroe. So again, 50-50 split, which is good. It's what we want. But now I'm torn. I think, again, I said this whole time this should have been the final of Tatum, Izzy. Tatum and Izzy have had a storyline going on for the better part of a year. Like, from Izzy picking up Tatum, putting her into the culling, manipulating her, and then turning on her, and then they have this feud, and then Izzy wins a title, and then they continue to feud, and then it ends right before Stand and Deliver, and Tatum then moves into a 3-week feud with Blake Monroe. It's a bit annoying, you know? The opportunity to have a fantastic ending was right there. It was right there. And they've just pivoted, like, right before. Like, they've rushed the storyline right before. This storyline could have waited till after Stand and Deliver, right? Because if Tatum had took Izzy Dame into Stand and Deliver and finished this feud with a big, massive match, that steel cage match that I had a couple weeks ago, they could have saved for Stand and Deliver. And then we could have built the new feud with Blake Monroe, where Blake Monroe was taking the title. We could have had multiple matches and not knowing how it would end. This, to me, kind of tells me Tatum might retain, especially with how quick the feud's been going. And especially with the fact that they didn't let Tatum get away with the title on NXT. If that was Tatum Paxley's last time showing up NXT as North American title, I think they would have allowed her to get the title back off of Blake Monroe, and then Blake Monroe finally captures it and it is hers. I think the fact that Blake Monroe's kept a hold of it and still ran away with it and Tatum's chasing it back tells the story that Tatum's going to have to win it back in the match. Even though she is the champion, she's going to have to beat her in order to get her hands back on the title. Unless she beats her and Blake just doesn't accept it and runs off with the title again. But I think for safety and just looking at how it's been booked, Tatum Paxley, I might go with. But then again, would you, if you were going to have Tatum Paxley walk out, Stand and Deliver, still North American champion, would you finish Izzy Dame's story right before Stand and Deliver to quickly do the Blake Monroe match? You'd surely do that if you want Blake Monroe to win the title at Stand and Deliver. I don't know. So I'm going to go with Tatum Paxley. And do you know what the sad thing about 50-50 cards is? It's wildly entertaining and unpredictable, but at the same time, I could walk out here with like no predictions correct, which is mental. Now, this next one, again, is 50-50. I don't know what the right decision is, and I don't know what I'd rather happen. Miles Bourne is defending his North American title against Johnny Gargano. Sucks, because there's probably quite a few NXT talent who haven't made it on the card. Like a Jada Parker, or a Kalani Jordan, or a Josh Briggs, a Jasper Troy, just to name a couple, right? And Johnny Gargano, who's been over on the main roster, gets to come back to NXT and gets to have a match on Stand and Deliver just like that, you know? But it makes sense. Johnny Gargano wasn't being used on the main roster, and he's been quite useless. He's been getting squashed. So he needs to go back to NXT to find his roots. And the North American title was synonymous with him. He's the only 3-time NXT North American champion, which I'm pretty sure is a fact, but I might be wrong on that. But he is a 3-time North American champion. So if anything's going to drag Johnny Gargano back to being Johnny Wrestling, it is a big NXT stage for the North American title. Does that mean Johnny wins the title and gains himself back? So he said if he wins that title, he's going back to the main roster because he's found Johnny Wrestling again. But does that mean he's going to win it and relinquish it and then go up to the main roster? Does that mean he's going to win it, be on both the main roster and NXT? There's a potential. And that could help promote NXT, bringing the North American title over to SmackDown. Or does that just mean Miles Bone is going to retain and Johnny's going to have to continue trying to find himself? I kind of feel like that might be the outcome. Johnny's going to fight thinking, I'm going to find myself again here, and just comes up quite short. Because, again, Miles Bone didn't win that title not too long ago, you know? So, I think it would be bad business to take the title right back off him and put it back on Johnny Gargano. I think Johnny's got to fight for it. And I don't think the NXT title, because that's now going to be a stacked division, right? But I think Miles Bone should probably retain it first, and then Johnny's got to overcome some more battles to finally find himself and win that title. Or learn that it's not the titles and it's not the wins that makes him Johnny Wrestling, it's what he's willing to do. So, I'm going to go with Miles Bone, because again, it's another 50-50 split. And do you know what? I don't think there's a single match where I can label a predictable winner, because the NXT Tag Team title matches are exactly the same. Vanity Project versus Los Americanos, again, another main roster tag team. You know, the calling on the card, Hank and Tank on a stupid fucking tag, like 10-man tag. Who else is there? There's OTM, there's Dark State. None of these are on Stand and Deliver. However, Los Americanos, who are already on Monday Night Raw and AAA, are getting the NXT Tag Team title match at Stand and Deliver. It's a bit frustrating, but the people love them. And something tells me they might put the titles on them. They've just put the titles on Vanity Project, which just annoys me, but it's fine. They're good at what they do. They play their characters well, and they're decent in-ring performers. But it's just like, of all the like menacing tag teams we have in NXT, we have the Culling, which are dark and mysterious. We have Dark State, which are just brutal and will beat everyone up. OTM, that are massive and just ready to scrap. Hank and Tank are massive men, and you've got the guys who put on makeup and try to look pretty. They're the NXT Tag Team Champions. And they're going to take on Los Americanos, who are 2 main roster guys who thrived in NXT but didn't really make it far on the main roster. So they've put them in lucha masks and they now dance funny in Spanish. I think I'm going to have to go with Vanity Project and play it safe. Again, not had the titles too long. And I think this is just sort of an attraction match. It's probably going to put some miles on Vanity Project, being able to say, we beat a main roster tag team. I think probably after Stand and Deliver, we'll have teams like OTM. I think OTM specifically, given that they've just beaten Dark State, I think they'll be going after those NXT Tag Team titles. And I don't think going after Los Americanos, who anywhere but Monday Night Raw play baby faces. I think they'll probably want to go after the Vanity Project. So I'm going to go with Vanity Project retaining the NXT Tag Team titles. As for the NXT Women's title match, I think we've learned at this point, it's a triple threat match. Jacy Jayne, Lola Vice, Kendall Gray. So, out of all of them, they're all fantastic in the ring as well. It would be cool to see Jacy Jayne retain because she's done such a good job. A lot of people thought she'd be transitional champion, when in actual fact, she's been a very dominant one, and she's put on banger after banger, good storyline after good storyline. She's held it down, but I think it's probably time they're going to pass on the title. It wouldn't make any sense to have Lola Vice and Kendall Gray, who you've bigged up. They've won titles everywhere else except NXT, and they've had big matches. They both challenged for the title before, came up short, had such a banger match. Neither woman won. I think one of them's got to win the title. I'd prefer it to be Lola Vice. They might put it on Kendall Gray, because I think Lola Vice is more likely to move up the main roster before Kendall Gray. But I'm going to say, even though I feel like Kendall's the most likely option, I'm going to say Lola Vice, because A, I want her to. B, I think she's more popular than them too. But C, like I said, she has less time on NXT. I think they want to give her that NXT title now, because Kendall Gray is probably going to be around a lot longer. And after Lola wins that title, we might get a bit of a feud between Lola and Kendall. We might get another mixed martial artist versus another mixed martial artist in a wrestling match. That beautiful match we had on NXT, we might get more of that. So I'm going to predict Lola Vice, purely because it's my preferred option. So Lola Vice, please win that title. And then it comes to the main event, Fatal 4-Way. Again, split. Joe Hendry, Ricky Saints, Ethan Page, Tony D'Angelo. One man I'm confident that is not winning is Ricky Saints. He makes the least sense. He just had the title. Why would he win it back this soon out of all the options? Do you know what I mean? There's a likelihood Joe Hendry could retain because it's such a big match. Ricky and Ethan might try and team, might screw everything up. Joe Hendry will retain, and then Joe Hendry and Tony D'Angelo go into a singles feud. Ethan Page is very popular. A lot of people can see the potential in Ethan Page, and I think him becoming friends with Ricky Saints when they were both champions and then changing his mind to chase the same title that Ricky has and then eventually winning it before Ricky might spark a feud between Ethan and Ricky. Leads for a good storyline. But I think, and I love Ethan Page, he's probably my favourite NXT star, but I think Tony D'Angelo has to win this, right? Because Tony D'Angelo's been there for time. He's been there for so long. Never won the NXT title. He's been Heritage Champion. He's been Tag Team Champion. He's been North American Champion. And like I said, I don't think anyone has more aura on that roster than Tony D'Angelo. The way he dealt with Stacks and Luca was mental. Like, he came out looking like $1 million. We didn't see him for ages. Then he came back, destroyed Dark State all by himself. And now he's ready to challenge for the NXT title. And I think it's a matter of time before he goes up to the main roster. In-ring and character-wise and mic-wise, he's main roster ready. We're just not sure where he'll fit in yet. And I think an NXT title run would be perfect. So I'm going to go with Tony D'Angelo because I think the guy deserves it. And he would be a great NXT champion. And I can imagine he wouldn't have a long run anyway because, like I said, he's got to move up to the main roster at some point soon. And if he doesn't win it, I'm going with Ethan Page. And then Tony D'Angelo probably might debut right after Mania, on the main roster. But I think if Joe Hendry retained, I'd be pissed because he's my least favourite out of all the guys. I get why people like him because his theme tune and his gimmick, but in terms of in-ring ability, he's worse than all of them. Even on the mic, I don't think he's as good as the rest of them. Ricky would just be the most boring option and wouldn't make any sense. So I'm going to go with Tony D'Angelo. But that's my predictions for Stand and Deliver. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.